I've always done or been interested in at least some type of martial art. So I did taekwondo after high school for a little bit, but that got me into watching MMA sports, so like UFC and things like that. And I was really drawn to the groundwork. So like the punching and stuff, like that's like the hype that everybody like, ooh, punching and blood, and that's fun, that's cool. But I was really interested in what was happening when it got to the ground because it looked real calculated. And so I've always really been interested in it. And then I finally got the opportunity to come in and try it here. And I've been here ever since.
I wanted to have a sport to train at. I like exercise and I like using my body, but I don't just like lifting weights. So I wanted to find something to do that was also like play. And that's how I got into it.
I was looking for a place to teach a class. One of my friends, Mike, suggested I come here and check this out. He'd actually been trying to get me to roll for like 6 months by that point. I didn't even know what it was, and I was like, no, you're weird. And so I came in here to teach a class. I met up with John, and it turned into me teaching a cardio core class. I never actually taught the class that I wanted to teach, and I taught all you guys. 2 weeks after that, I was like, fine, I'll roll. And then addicted instantly.
Being a young lady in college and living with my brother and all of his friends, we would have these, fight club situations. And I'd be throwing my roundhouse kicks and whatnot, and they would just catch them, push me down, and, it was like game over for me. One of our roommates suggested all of us trying out jiu-jitsu, and I had no idea what it was when I walked in the door, but I was the one to stick with it out of the 3 of us, and found that that was actually a martial art that I could use as self-defense. I realized if I was ever walking in an alley, I was not going to be roundhouse kicking my way out of any situation, but jiu-jitsu actually did give me that confidence.
Like when I first started, it was only me for a couple weeks, but Hannah's been here. It was just me and Hannah for a really long time. And then the other girls started to show up. Right now we have the most girl population, I think, out of most of the schools. I really don't know another school that I think has more girls than us right now. In jiu-jitsu, at like the beginner level, there's a pretty high turnover in general just for jiu-jitsu. People get frustrated. People come in thinking, like, I used to be a wrestler, so I'll be really good at this. And then they find out it doesn't always work. And, there's a lot of turnover. It takes a long time to go belt to belt most of the time, so that discourages people too. But there's an even higher turnover with girls. One, there's not very many to start. It's mostly dudes, so if you come in and there's just like one other girl maybe, or maybe 2 if you're lucky. So they're just rolling with dudes and not everybody's comfortable with that, at least to start, and that's a pretty big discouraging factor. The dudes like getting all like aggressive and gruff, and girls aren't really like that. So it can be kind of a turnoff.
They don't feel they're strong enough. It wasn't what they expected. They don't like being in between somebody's legs. You're going to have guys and girls like sitting on top of you, and it's your job to get out of that situation. And I think some females especially maybe panic a little bit, and then they don't like it, and then they don't want to come back, which is sad. If jiu-jitsu is designed for the smaller person as a female, majority of the time you're going to be the smaller one, and it's designed to help you get out of a bad situation.
I think the most challenging part is dealing with the learning curve. Everybody has their different style, and no matter where you are in that learning process, it's just that challenge of always growing and figuring out what you need to be working on, how you can improve, and what moves are working for you, what moves aren't, and trying to figure out why they aren't working for you. So it's just that constant reflection, constant learning, and constant, humbling situations. You really have to leave your ego at the door, and that can be challenging for some people.
I think people have a big issue sticking with this sport because it's harder than they expected, or they reach a plateau and they don't know how to overcome it, when in reality it just takes time to overcome certain things. You always improve. So it's an awesome art.
One of the guys here, when I first started training, actually I'd been here for about 6 months, but he, I guess, still didn't know me very well. And so we were sitting there waiting to do jiu-jitsu, waiting to roll, and there was a new round, and he goes, "Hey, girl, want to roll?" And I looked at him like, what? I was like, "Did you just call me girl?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got your attention." Anyway, so I rolled with him, but afterwards he pulled me aside and showed me a technique or something that I had not known how to do when we were rolling together. And he's like, "Hey, I noticed that you should work on this," and it was super helpful. And so after that, he became one of the people that I go to, and he's one of my favorite people here now. But one of the people that I go to for advice. So I thought it was really cool that it turned around. I think the most memorable piece of advice that anyone has given me was him. It was maybe the second time that we rolled, and afterwards I asked him, okay, if you would give me one thing to work on next, what would it be? And he said, breathe. You're working too hard.
When I started, I was real bubble. Like, this is my bubble, stay far away from it. Don't hug me, don't touch me, get out of my space. The sport in general has really helped me become more outgoing. I hated public speaking. I hated everything about being social. And this helped me out a lot. So I'm a lot more comfortable talking to people and rolling and having people in my space and not freaking out. As you do the sport and as you start to learn, at least fundamentally, some of the stuff that you can do, it's really not that bad.
Like every time you put another link to your chain, that's kind of a huge moment because it means you're starting to think ahead. And it's just this awesome feeling. Or when you catch, don't tell the other guys this, but when you catch like a blue better or higher off guard, it's like, yes, yeah, I gotcha. And it usually doesn't happen again for a while. But then you find a new thing and then you do it again.
All the men had to agree that they would let me compete in the division. They did. And I went in, and my first match was against Omar, who now is a black belt and really helped me grow from day one. I trained with him. I went against another one of my teammates, and then finally went against a really nice competitor from out of town. That was one match that, it was real quick. I got an arm drag, took the back, got a rear naked choke, and he didn't tap, and I know he's not a tapper in general, so he went out. I won the match, and I walked out of that cage, and I just looked at my, coaches and teammates, and I was like, oh man, I really needed that. Competing's been tough lately, and I really needed that win.
Winner, black by submission.
That was kind of all it was for me at that moment, and I didn't realize it was going to blow up into this ordeal when the video went viral.
Everybody competes for different reasons. Some people compete because they want to win. They want to show that they're good at something and try to a proving ground. I try to treat it more of seeing how I work outside of my comfort zone. So I know everybody here. I roll with you, I roll with the other girls, so I know what that's like. I don't know what that's like with someone I don't know, and I don't know how they roll. I don't know their skill set. I don't know their strengths, their weaknesses. So I use it more of just a testing ground for me, just to kind of see how I react under pressure. And it really shows me what I actually learned, and then what I think I learned, and then didn't really learn.
The reason that I do it, because I don't love competing, but I compete because it's a setting where I actually am seeing what I can do, the full extent of how well I can do against another person who is trying their best.
I am very much pro competing, and I always wish that I could even be a better example of a competitor and do it, continuously, and that I had that motivation to do that. It is a fantastic learning experience, and it really helps you understand where you are and where you can go with your jiu-jitsu. A part of it from being a learning experience, what I often talk about with children, kind of like win or lose, we all can agree that it's completely terrifying to compete. The fact that you can go out there and face your fears like that and challenge yourself, definitely take that, courage that I gain in those experiences and apply that to other parts of my life and help me live a more full life.
I'm 29 years old. I'm not going out there to be like, yeah, I'm going to be on TV and be the champ. It's really to test the skills that you learn. And I think when you embrace the art of it and then compete to test the skills that you learn instead of just trying to join the sport just to win all the time, that's when you really appreciate jiu-jitsu.
As far as being treated differently, there's going to be some situations where a guy might not want to roll full force with you. In my experience now, like I feel like I don't want them to compensate. I'm going to go 100% with you. I want you to go 100% with me because that's how I'm going to learn and that's how I'm going to do the technique right. It really is a non-issue here. So everybody's totally cool. They, you rolling, you're rolling.
More than anything, the men are really supportive. I've always had a really supportive coach and teammates. There's a couple guys maybe that like I won't roll with even, or they have a hard time rolling with girls, but that's a real like minimal part. And
the first time that I came here and the first technique that we learned, the key to the whole move was dick forward. And I was like, well, shit. But I think mostly I feel conflicted about my gender because I don't want it to matter at all. I don't want to be a woman doing jiu-jitsu. I want to be a person doing jiu-jitsu. And the reality of the fact is that it is different. It is different because physically, I feel like I'm fairly strong, but compared to guys, even guys that are my own size, I'm smaller than most of them, and even the ones that are my own size are mostly stronger than me. And then mentally, because I don't have as much testosterone for whatever reason, because of the way that I was brought up, I don't have the same psychological aspect to it as they do. It is different.
Yeah, like there's already a limited number of women that start training jiu-jitsu, and as you go up levels, that number goes down by half, by 3/4. So really, like when you talk about like higher belts, like higher ranks, there's really not that many right now. So if you talk about like women like blue belts, there's a good number now, at least in Wisconsin anyway, that I've seen. But then when you get to like the purple belt rank, like you could probably name them on one hand. I think there's like one brown belt that I know of in the state, but obviously I don't get around that much to see everybody. But that's like I know of one person who's a brown belt, and then I don't know any women black belt personally. I've only seen them on the interweb.
I usually hear it from old teammates too, where the people just say like, "Oh, maybe once I'm in shape, I'll start it." I have to laugh at that because it's like, well, this is how you get into shape. This is where the starting point is. People are trying to figure out where to begin and when's the right time, and it's like, now is. With new people, their first time even rolling with you, their first class, and for like a month, they keep saying, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do from here. It's like, we all didn't know what to do from there, the same day you were, in that spot. We all get that. So it's okay to, feel ridiculous and, feel clueless and all that kind of stuff because it comes with time.
I think to anybody, it's just jump in and do it. Don't try to wait until you know what you're doing because you're never going to know what you're doing. Nobody knows what they're like. Even the people that know what they're doing still go up against people that are so much better than them that it makes it feel like it's your first day all over again. And sometimes that person is somebody that has been training like less than you have been training and just happens to have a style that you've never seen before. And so I think that just like constantly forgiving yourself for not knowing what's going on and having that not be important, having just the interaction and figuring stuff out on the fly. That would be my advice.
Is the best thing. I tell girls all the time in the world to do it. You walk taller, like you're more confident. It's a really, really weird thing. It's like you have complete control of your body all of a sudden, and you think if I got into a certain situation, at least I have the tools to fight my way out of something. Because I think that's the biggest thing for girls, is to have the right tools.
One of the things that I wanted to do was get more girls interested in maybe an environment that would be more comfortable. Before we had all these girls, I wanted there to be like a safe environment where they could be at least introduced to the sport and then get comfortable with the sport in general. And then slowly, as they're more comfortable, realize it's not that bad rolling with guys. It's actually kind of cool to roll with the dudes because then you can see how the technique is working against someone who might be bigger and stronger than you are.
For a lot of years, it's been my mission of opening this up to women, and I've talked about it a lot publicly and have tried my best to put my energy into making opportunities for women. And in the summer, I still do women classes and stuff like that. The sport is growing. This is the time for women to start, owning it and stepping up and giving it a try. And, this can be our sport as much as it is anybody else's.
There will be somebody who comes in who is way lower ranked than you and way smaller than you and totally beats you up. Like that is going to happen someday. and you have to have the grace and the humility to let that happen, or to accept that and to learn from it, as opposed to, I mean, you don't have to, but you're better off if you do.
I think if you embrace the art and not the sport, you will go much further and you'll be much happier doing jiu-jitsu, because too many people focus on the I have to win, win, win all the time. They don't actually think of the fact that you're on the ground, but it's a dance all the time.
So hold tight, hold tight.